today. I got the absolute juice when it comes to this infinite outline effect, and I'm going to be showing you a bunch of ways you can tweak it and make it unique. And I've also watched some other tutorials on something very similar to this. Every time I watch the tutorial, it just seems like they're doing some unnecessary stuff that maybe might take a lot of extra time. So I'm going to be showing you kind of like the more concise version of that and how you can get the effect going pretty easily and make it look really good. If you're new here, what's good? My name is Brian. I make music video tutorials here on YouTube, and if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and do that. Upload 3 times a week, and we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Also, if you could do me a favor and like and comment, it really does help push my content to other people. It only takes a second of your time, so it'd be greatly appreciated. Also, one last thing before we get into the video. Right now, my website's 10% off, so if you want to level up your music video editing game, save some time, support the channel, get some really cool looks. The V2 is out. We got this thermal and CRT pack. I think they're both really fire. We're actually going to be using some of those in this tutorial. It's not necessary, but it is a cool way to spice it up. So yeah, I'll have that link down below, as well as some tutorials on some of my packs and presets. Let's go ahead and get into this video and break down this effect. All right, so now that we're in After Effects, I'm just going to be showing you the general idea of the effect, and then I'm going to be obviously breaking down and showing you how to do each step. The first step is kind of do this outline, then go ahead and add some camera movement into it so it zooms in, and then lastly just put it all together. And this right here has a little bit of like this trippy look, but if I go ahead and turn off one of these effects, you can see it has that zoom effect that we just saw a second ago. And obviously we can go ahead and tweak the colors of all this, the look, and I'll be showing you, actually I have something pulled up in Premiere here, just a few examples of some stuff I did really quickly. Obviously all these are fully customizable and really easy to do. So I'm going to be showing you all of these things that I just showed you. Also, if you want to follow along with the tutorial and have the same keyframes as me, and maybe, you know, you could just go back into this project file and tweak some of the settings to make your own looks, you can go ahead and support me on Patreon. I'll have it linked down below. I upload all the project files for all my tutorials. So yeah, check it out. So first off, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and go to the first frame of the clip and then go to the mask tool. You can use Mocha, you can use the AE pen tool. That's the one I'm going to be using just because I know everyone doesn't have Mocha. And then just do a rough outline of subject. I like to be pretty precise here, but it doesn't really matter because this is just going to be the stroke. So it's not actually the mask of the person. Again, it doesn't need to be exactly perfect. Just going ahead out here, making the outline. I think when you have a little bit more of the harsh edges, the effect just looks a little bit better in my eyes, but you know, it's all personal preference, so do whatever you want. And honestly, you can do this transition without masking out your subject. You can mask out an object, you know, you could just make a circle mask or a square mask or just some random shape, honestly. Then I'm just zooming out here, holding H on my keyboard to move around. I'm going to close out this mask, and now you can see you have SSG Kobe masked out. We're going to fit that to the frame, and what we're going to do is go to effects and presets and type in stroke, and then go ahead and drag that onto your clip. And then the first thing I'm going to do is on transparent, and then make sure the mask one is selected, or whatever mask your mask that you just made is. I'm assuming most of the time it's going to be mask one, but if you have multiple masks in your project already, just go ahead and make sure it's the one that you just did. And this is where it really comes down to how much movement or whatever it is. For this one, he doesn't really move too much, so you're not going to really see the movement in the mask in the stroke anyways. So I'm just going to mask one frame. Let's say he was moving around, flaring his arms or whatever. You can go ahead and do every single frame, and you could have it obviously move with your subject. So what you would do is you would just go to the mask path, keyframe it, change all these points each frame. Or if you wanted to do like every 5 or every 10 frames, you could keyframe, you know, go 10 frames forward, go back 1 frame, keyframe it, and then go back 1 frame so it snaps between. So if you were to change it right here, it would hold this exact mask for 9 frames, and then on the 10th frame it'd snap over. But like I said, for this one, he doesn't really move too much. So to save time, we're not even going to change the mask. We're just going to do something a little bit later on to fix that and make it look a little bit more realistic, like it's actually moving with them. So then again, go to on transparent, and then that's going to give you the layer of the stroke, and then you can choose any color you want. I'm going to go ahead and do green because that was the kind of the theme of this music video in general. And then the brush hardness is going to be how hard the edges are going to be. The lighter you go, the more smooth out everything's going to be. Or the harsher you go, the more jagged and rough the edges are going to be. And then the next step I'm going to do is just duplicate that layer and then remove the stroke and also remove the mask from that layer. That way we can see we have the outline layer and the layer of SSG Kobe. Obviously there's no movement or anything going on right now. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off that outline layer. This is the step that I saw a lot of people wouldn't do. They would either mask out the whole entire subject using the pen tool. So what I'm going to do to save some time is use the roto brush tool to actually mask out our subject here. More contrast heavy background like I have here is a black suit on and the background's white. It's going to be easier to do. But I'm just going to go through and play all these frames and then go ahead and click freeze. And then I'm just going to go ahead and shift the edge in a little bit so we don't see that white outline and then maybe bump up the feather a little bit. And then I'm also going to go ahead and duplicate the layer and go to the bottom layer and go ahead and remove the roto brush. That way we have the middle layer is the layer of the roto brush, top layer is the outline, and then the bottom layer is the clip in its entirety. So then what I'm going to go ahead and do is go to recompose on the outline layer and name this outlines, because we're going to be making duplicates of this. And actually we don't even have to do anything. We can go ahead and close out of that composition. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the 3D layer and then the motion blur as well, making sure that this motion blur thing is checked right here. And if you don't see any of those options, you can go down here to toggle switches and modes until you see these two options pop up. And then all we're going to do is open up the transform options and then change the position. I'm going to actually go ahead and duplicate the layer so the top layer is default. And then depending on your clip or whatever, you can change the position basically by intervals. So like I'm going to go -500, then I'm going to duplicate it -1000. So I'm just counting by 500s right now, -1000, duplicate it, then -1500. So there are 4 layers, all different Z positions. So basically what that's changing, so I didn't actually explain really what we were changing the value on. It's the third option in position and it's the Z option. So it's basically how far away something is from the camera. Since we made it a 3D layer, it is now, they're all spaced out. So like it has an X, Y, and a Z plane now. And that'll make more sense in a second. And then I'm going to right click down here on this timeline option and click new and go to camera and then go ahead and click OK. So then the next step is to open up the transform option in the camera settings and bring it more negative until you see this last outline kind of go right behind your subject, or you can have it start like just outlining him. You can see this bottom layer right here is getting cut off, and right there is perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and keyframe the position and then go to the second to last frame just so we can see what we're doing, and then bring it into the positive values as much as you really want. You can change it however you want. So you can have it end, you know, completely off the screen, or you could have it end where it has a little bit left. We'll just do this for right now, and then I'm going to bring it to the last frame. So if you have the motion blur option and the 3D option on all of the outline layers that you already did, which you should already have, you'll see it now has some motion blur and it just moves forward. And it looks really linear and kind of boring right now. Obviously, we're going to go ahead and change a bunch of these things to make it look better. First thing I'm going to go ahead and do is actually drag that layer of the rotoscope above, and then once you see that, now it looks a lot more like the effect we're looking for. So now we just need to add the effects onto the outlines, and to do that I'm going to highlight the camera layer and then the 4 outline layers, or however many outlines you have. Right click, go to recompose, and then we can name this zoom layer just so we know what it's doing. And then I'm actually going to close out of that right away, and we can trim it to the length of the clip, clicking Ctrl+Shift+D and deleting that part. So now basically whatever you do to this zoom layer is going to be affecting all of these outlines. So we can add some glow, we can add some shake, we can add some optics compensation. We're just going to add a bunch of different things to kind of make it unique, make it stand out and not look so bland. I don't know. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do, and just to give it a little bit more of that look like it's coming at you, I'm going to add optics compensation. Go ahead and drag that onto the zoom layer, keyframe the field of view. I'm going to go ahead and click reverse lens distortion. That way it kind of bends out at you, you can see. And I'm going to keyframe it from 0 and then go to the second to last frame and just play around with something that we like. Maybe 100 looks good for us. Click U to bring up the keyframes and drag it to the last frame. And you can go ahead and ease it just so it looks a little bit smoother. And what we did there, it doesn't even look that noticeable, but it will give it that overall better feel later on when we start adding some more effects onto it. The next thing I want to go ahead and do is add some Sapphire Shake. And this is going to sell the effect a lot more if you have a clip where the subject's moving around a lot. It's going to hide that one frame of outline movement because it just has a little bit more life to it, just moving around a lot more. You can play with the amplitude and the frequency, but I think I like how it looks just default, honestly. Maybe we could do a little bit more amplitude. You can see now it shakes a little bit more, and the frequency is going to be how often it shakes. So if you bring it up a lot, it'll look a lot more jittery, but I liked it before. So we're going to leave it at amplitude 1.5 and then frequency 8. The next thing I think is pretty necessary is some kind of glow. I'm going to go ahead and add deep glow on, drag that onto our layer. Go ahead and close out these things, and now you can see that's a lot more of what we're looking for. Depending on what glow you're using and how you want it to look, you can play with the exposure or the brightness of the glow. You can play with the radius or the glow width. Sometimes it says a bunch of different things. I think I'm gonna make the glow width a little bit less. It looks like the bars are glowing a little bit more. Maybe we could keyframe the exposure as it comes out from like 1 to something like 3. and then bring it to the last frame, and I'm gonna easy ease those as well. Now it gets a little brighter as it comes at us. One thing I really like about this effect and how many different varieties and stuff you can do. Now you can go to this zoom layer and play with all the blending modes. So if you don't see that option, again, go to the toggle switches and modes, look until you see this mode option, go to your zoom layer. If you add screen, it's going to give it a more like there kind of look, if that makes sense. Color dodge is going to give you a different look depending on the colors. Overlay, there's so many different things that you can do, and it's all going to be depending on your clip and what you're really working with. Difference looks cool sometimes. So yeah, just go ahead, play around with all those different options. I think I'm going to leave it on screen for right now. I like the way that looks, and then we can go ahead and add some more stuff on. I'm going to go ahead and add some flicker just so it gives it a little bit more of a light kind of look. I'm going to bump the amplitude up to maybe something like 1, depending on your clip and depending on everything. It's just going to be whatever you think looks best, obviously. But these are just some things that I would add on most of the time. And now you can see it kind of flickers the color. I really like the way that looks. I actually bump down the amplitude just a little bit, not as intense. And then maybe you want some heat wave, just so it's like out of focus in some areas and in focus in some areas. Bring up the heat intensity, blur amount to whatever you think looks good. Now you can see it's a little bit more blurry in some spots and it's more in focus in some spots. I like the way that looks. And then this is where the real sauce comes in. You can go ahead and add any effect or distort or color changing or preset or basically anything. I'm just gonna go ahead and play around with some stuff. Maybe some RGB separation just to give it a little bit of depth and kind of change the colors around a little bit. And then I was playing around with some of the crazy looks that I got here, you know, using like marble look and just like these different outlines and stuff. I was actually playing around with some of my presets for my website. Like I said, they're 10% off right now. So if you want to snag it, it's a good time. I'm going to be showing you just a few things for my thermal pack. If you go ahead and drag that onto the layer, you're going to get some crazy looks pretty much automatically. I'm actually a really big fan of how this one looks. And if you don't want it to flicker between all the different colors, just go ahead and turn off flicker, and it's going to give you a way more consistent of a look. This one looks like some kind of thermal look, obviously from a thermal pack, but it looks like a true thermal, I guess. It's always just going to be depending on your clip and what colors you have. This goes along with the theme really well, the black and green. That was Hulk. A bunch of different things you can do, honestly. Just dragging on presets and different effects is what's going to really give you a cool look, and I think really helps sell the effect and make it unique. I'll show you like 1 or 2 more of these, and this one gives it kind of a wild look, obviously. I even played around with some of the CRT. You know, that one's going to give you a lot more of a matrix look. And then if you drag on some other preset with it, dragged on the dark thermal and then the CRT checkered to give it that matrix look and then a little bit of a thermal look. And obviously, whatever presets or whatever stuff you're using is going to work as well. So, you know, just try out some different stuff. I was just using some of my stuff. I like how it looks. Yeah, really infinite possibilities with this effect. Let's go ahead and make that like marble look that we had before, because I showed that in the preview and I haven't showed that yet. So all you need to do really for that is add on some turbulence displace. And then I just like to drag that turbulence displace all the way to the top of the effects. That way it kind of still has all the effects on it properly. And then you can keyframe the amount or how much. And then you can also keyframe the evolution. So I'm gonna go to the end and keyframe the evolution to like do 1 full rotation and maybe have the amount get a lot more intense. And you can see what that looks like. And since it is doing that zooming effect, maybe that's something you don't want. So you can go back into the zoom layer, and if you turn off the camera eye or the eye on the camera layer, and then once you go back in after you turned off that camera layer, it's gonna have a lot less of that zoom effect. So I just went ahead and removed the CRT look from it just to see what it would look like without it. And I think that looks pretty cool. Like I said, it's all just playing around with the effect now. I just wanted to give you the general concept and then some ideas of stuff you can do. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for you guys in this one. If you made it all the way to the end, like always, I do appreciate you. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. If you wanted to snag the CRT pack, the thermal pack that we used in this video, the website is briandalmada.com. I'll have it linked down below. It's 10% off until Sunday. If you're not already following me on all social medias, go ahead and do that. I'll have them linked down below. Join the Discord, hop in. We're always editing and just doing cool stuff as a community. Check that out. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you guys in this one. Peace.